Wendy, and today I have a special guest here with me. It is Kelsey and Becky from The Sorry Girls.
Yeah, if you guys don't know who we are a DIY channel here on YouTube, also from Canada.
And we have lots of DIYs of all kinds, from room decor to fashion, everything, you name it, we got it.
We try sewing. We try it.
Not as good as Wendy,
No,
but we try it.
They're good. And this has obviously been heavily requested, especially since we both live in Toronto. I guess it's as straightforward as possible to work together.
Yeah.
So today we did 6 DIYs in total for decking out your dorm. There are 3 on my channel and then 3 on their channel. So watch these 3, hope you like it, and then hop over to theirs to see the rest. Okay, we'll get started with the duvet and pillowcases. I did a quick DIY to jazz them up. This tutorial works the best if you have a duvet and pillowcase set that is solid in color. I wanted a particular shade of blue, so let me just get back to you in a moment. I'm gonna make my own duvet and pillowcase. And we're back. This is my finished duvet set, and there were pillowcases as well. You're going to want to take a strip of fabric that matches your solid color, and we're going to cut a strip that is roughly 4 to 6 centimeters wide. On that strip, we'll be folding in the 2 side edges and sewing each side down with a straight stitch, which will get us ready to attach a macrame detail to the pillowcases. To make the macrame, we're going to need some embroidery floss, and you can pick this up at any craft store. For each macrame that you want to make, you're going to need 3 of them. These are the bundles that you'll want to create from your macrame, and for each of them, they should have 8 strands of embroidery floss inside. The math that I'm using works specifically for the macrame design that I'm going to be doing, so if you want to vary it up, give a little extra length so that you don't run out. To make tying the macrame easier, I have this cardboard that I found, and I clamped a measuring tape along the top with some clips to hold in the macrame. Fold over the macrame so that the 2 ends have a 5 centimeter difference in length, and then go ahead and tie a knot at the top. This one was the 22 centimeter one, so I'm going to go ahead and put this on the far right side underneath the clip. Next up, we'll take the 44 centimeter piece, again measure it out so that the 2 ends are 5 centimeters apart, and then tie a knot at the very top. This goes 4 centimeters away from the first guy on the next clip that's available, and you'll want to be arranging them so that the shorter ends are facing outwards. We'll repeat this for the 66 centimeter piece, the longest one. Fold it in half, making sure there's that 5 centimeter difference between the 2 ends, and tie a knot at the top. That goes into the last clip on the right side, again 4 centimeters away from the next clip, and we're going to finish this off by doing the remaining 3 slots on the left side. Now we're going to tie these strands together, and I like to start in the middle, so I'm going to smooth out these 2 lengths, tie them together with a knot in the middle, and then tug on it to make sure everything's nice and symmetrical. With the next 2 neighboring strands, I'm going to smooth them out, bring them together, tie a knot, and make sure it's all symmetrical again. And for the other 2 that are on the left, going to smooth them out, tie a knot, and make sure everything is nice and symmetrical. On the far sides, the knots will always be the hardest, and it's just because we're working with the shortest amount of string. And so for those sections, make sure you're grabbing everything to pull through, and that really short end that's left behind is going to become a tassel, so that's why it's nice and short. On the next row down, bring together the 2 neighboring strands that are the longest and tie those together. It's going to form a diamond shape with the rest of the knots you've tied, which is the look that we want. Keep tying the knots, and here's how it will look in the end. The very last step with these is to fray the bottoms. A trick that I found really useful was I got a piece of Velcro and a fine tooth hair comb. I put the Velcro underneath the loose ends and then combed wildly in all sorts of directions, and that helped all the threads to separate and get a little more messy and tangled. At first I tried this just using the hair comb, but as you can see, you swipe a lot and it doesn't seem to make a difference. As soon as you add the Velcro, I think the little teeth on the Velcro really help to pull all the threads apart so that your comb just spreads them in every single direction. Once you remove the clips, that gets you 1 of these pieces of macrame. I had 2 per pillowcase, so I made 4 in total, and we're going to be attaching it to the pillow using that strip of fabric that we cut. Folding the strip in half to make sure everything is nice and symmetrical, I put down 2 clips to help it stay put, and on the side facing me, I pinned the macrame to the bottom half of that strip on the wrong side so that we could fold it into the strip and hide it away. Once that one side was done, I flipped it over and used that first piece that we pinned as a template to pin down the second piece of macrame. This ensures that the distance between all of the knots is the same and it'll look nice and symmetrical. After it's all pinned, you can open it up and fold down that top half so that you totally hide away the top loops of those macrame. After that, you fold over the raw ends and sew the entire thing with a straight stitch to the side of the pillowcase. It's going to add a really cute macrame decoration.
Next up, we're gonna show you how to make this convertible laundry hamper and wall decor all in one. It's amazing.
So the main things you'll need for this DIY are an embroidery hoop and some fabric. First, figure out the circumference of your embroidery hoop. We added a few extra inches for good measure and then halved that number to figure out how wide each side of the laundry bag needs to be. Measure out the number on your fabric. Make sure the fabric is folded in half when you're doing this. For the length, you can make this however long you want. We made ours about 34 inches long. Cut this shape out. Sew up the two cut sides. We left out a 1-inch space at the top of the long side and hemmed these edges separately. Now we're going to roll over the top about 1 inch to create a tube. Sew up the bottom of this tube and make sure the tube opening is big enough to feed a rope through it. We're using this rope to create a drawstring for the laundry hamper. Once you've fed it all the way through, tie the ends in a knot and cut off any extra. Flip the bag right side around and the bag of your laundry hamper is done. To hang the bag nicely on the wall, we're using a wooden embroidery hoop. First, we're going to add some decorative crystals to the hoop. String the crystals through some fishing wire and tie knots to keep them separated. We made 2 rows of crystals. With a hammer and a small nail, nail a hole about 3.5 inches down on each side of the outer ring of the embroidery hoop. String your crystal strands through these holes and knot the strings on the outside to keep them in place. To assemble the hanging laundry hamper, feed the top opening of the bag through the inside ring of the hoop and wrap it over the sides. Pull on the drawstring slightly to secure it. Slide the outer ring over top and tighten the top screw to hold everything together. When it's laundry time, simply loosen the top screw, take the bag out, and pull the drawstring tight.
And lastly, for this video, we're gonna go through a really easy way to make your own wicker woven type of lampshade. For this lampshade, I bought this wide burlap ribbon that I found at the fabric store. Try to find one as stiff as possible. And I also cut out this shape from a template I found online on how to make paper globes. I have a link in the description if you'd like to get that template as well. But all I did here was I lay it down and cut out 8 of these pieces in total, which would get me all the way around a circle. Along the corners, it was also helpful for me to add those little notches to help me keep track of where everything needed to be aligned as I sewed. Once there were 8 pieces in total, I put them right sides together and sewed with a straight stitch along all the edges. This joins them into a half sphere, which will be the shape of the lamp. Here's how it looks as a half sphere. It really benefited from some heat and some ironing, and the last step was I added one wide strip all the way around the bottom to help smooth out those corners. Making sure that all my seams were aligned, I sewed with a straight stitch halfway around with one side of the ribbon and then halfway around with the other side of the ribbon. This was just to make sure that when they met on the other side, it was nice and clean and symmetrical. As I got close to the opposite end, I measured up how much more would be needed to cover over the seam, and I cut off the excess ribbon. Then I took those 2 ribbon pieces, put them right sides together to sew a straight stitch that closes the loop, and then you can finish sewing that last little bit to this dome shape. I went ahead and flipped the ribbon down. I found it was a teeny bit bulky, so I did add another stitch all the way around to help lock everything nice and flat. And to add a bit more of a bohemian vibe to the bottom of the lamp, I started pulling out a couple of those burlap threads to let the bottom fray a little. The tiny hole that will be left at the top can be strung over any light bulb cord, and once you find a nice little light bulb, it's ready to go. So those are 3 dorm apartment decor ideas for you. The other 3 are on the Sorry Girls channel, so please click the link in the description.
Yes, we made the ever popular pallet bed that we've been dying to try, and 2 more awesome things.
Yeah, make sure you guys come on over and check that out.
While you're over there on their channel, please don't forget to subscribe. They're so talented. They make very, very cute stuff. All the time they make stuff and then I'm like, oh, I should have made that. So they take care of a lot of things for you. We will see you guys over there.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye. If you're new here from the Sorry Girls, thank you so much for coming over to watch. If you like these tutorials, you can always subscribe, and we'll see you again. Goodbye.